My name is Ralph White, and I'm an alcoholic. Matthew, I'd like to thank you for that stirring introduction. Nothing about whether or not we can expect a message of hope or a message of, expel depth and weight. He likes eating. He likes it. That's pretty much all y'all need to know about this guy. He likes eating. That is pretty much all you need to know. And Matthew made me reflect. Because since I've been here, many of you have done what it is that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. You've made me feel welcome. You've made me feel at home. It has been my experience since I landed here that I felt welcome. It's not everybody's experience. My sponsor, Bob B. out of St. Paul, Minnesota, likes to share from the moment he landed in Alcoholics Anonymous, he felt at home. I felt the same way. And it's not everybody's experience. And I have a couple of blind spots, and that puts me in mind of it. One of my blind spots, and I'm sure I'm the only person who has it, if it ain't my experience, you lying about it being yours. And the companion to that one, and it is much, much, much more sinister, is my experience is the experience. Sponsors, I am always self-examining for blind spots, and that's one of my blind spots. I think that my experience is the experience. When I get up here sometimes, I think that my experience is the experience. I'll sit out there and somebody will share something and I'll listen to them. And because it's not my experience, I discount it as being their experience. One of the other things that I'm guilty of, I try not to be now. In order for me to have a position, I'm not going to even say to be right, for whatever reason, you have to be wrong. I spend a lot of time debunking positions. I don't think it's effective because I don't think anything's wasted in God's economy. I don't debunk slogans. I used to, very early on, excited about the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. And I used to think that our book constrains. I no longer think that. I think that our big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a launch point. I don't think it's parameters. I think it's the launching pad. I think Sandy used to talk about the finger pointing toward the solution. It's not the solution. It's the finger. My sponsor likes to say, Ralph, you can't eat the menu. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is October 11th, 1986. I've been with you 36 plus years. I'm 69 years old. I've been with you more than half my life, and I have come to find that I'm at my very best when I'm with you. I'm my best self when I'm with you. You hear a lot of people talk about folk and they'll say, he don't walk like he talk. And that is absolutely true. I don't know anybody that walks like they talk pretty much unless they talking real But what I know we do in Alcoholics Anonymous, and we've had a lot of people that did it this weekend, we talk like we're trying to walk. We talk like we'd like to walk. We talk because we aspire. We talk because we see examples around us. We talk because we come from dark places. We talk because we instill hope. We talk like we'd like to walk. So that eliminates a whole lot of judgment. And I'm a judgy guy by nature. But you've done something with me. That young man, James, that stood up for one day, I had the opportunity to meet him this afternoon. Barkley brought him up to me. And he, it's no mistake. If you guys know Barkley, it's no mistake why that guy was attracted to Barkley after I had a conversation with him. So pray for that guy. Because he, Pray for James. But James, last night, stood at the turning point that we talk about. He stood literally at the turn. What I'm going to do? Am I going to cop some meth tonight? Am I going to go over here? Or am I going to end up at the Music City Roundup today? I don't know. I do know what it is that landed him with us. I do know. It's not coincidence. You know, it's not happenstance. It's what it is that we have in abundance. I like to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it this evening. You know, we've had a lot of people that came up and they shared their experience, strength, and hope this week. And if you've been listening to them, you probably are feeling like I'm feeling right now. Damn, I'd hate to be him because the bar is way up there. You know, Arisha just got through. The mic is still vibrating. You know, Arisha just put it down. And Arisha is, I'm proud to say, a good friend of mine. You know, I'm proud to say that the message from up here pales in comparison to if you see her in her life. You know, and that's not just podium talk. I got the opportunity, you know, to get some brand new. I love it. I'm an AA junkie, unashamed, unapologetic. I'm an AA junkie. Some ladies were talking to me this weekend, and they were talking about, Ralph, if you'd like to go see Nashville, we'd be glad to take you out in the rest. And Leslie can tell you, I know I get on her nerves sometimes because you know, when we go out, when you ask me to come to your party, it's the same way when you asked me to come to your party when I was partying. I'm there till the lights go out, and I'm not missing nothing. Nothing's passing me by. I'm in the meetings. I'm at the speaker meetings. I still love speaker meetings. Leslie gets, you know, one of the reasons we do it so well. And a lot of people be like, "Where's Les? Where's it?" Okay, she's doing what she do. We get along real well because my behind is going to be planted here no matter what. Some lady said, do you want to see Nashville? I want to see the Music City Roundup. I want to see my people. I want to see Jack. I want to see Rich. I want to see Edith. I want to hear from the Goodings. You know, I want to hear the music of Alcoholics Anonymous out there in the lobby. I want to hug Sherry from Memphis that she gave me a big hug when I got here, and Betsy. I want to see the divas right here in this row that's telling me we gonna light it up tonight. No, we ain't. You know, y'all gonna be doing that on your own. You know, I want to get it off. You know, and I feel at home when I get here. You know, I'm embarrassed to say something right now to our new friends. And we had a lot of people stand up as new with less than a year sober. And I pray you desperation. You know what? I don't know where we're going tonight. I'm going to get inside the traditional, you know, but I'm going to also be me. You know what? When you get a speaker and you don't like him, my thought is this. Don't blame the speaker. Blame the person that invited them, because they know what they were, you know. I can't be nothing but me. Steve invited me. Blame Steve. One of my closest confidants in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, and I get overwhelmed still. You know, but anyway, I was saying, I don't know what we're going to get tonight, but, you know, offhand, there are some things. Well, no, I'm going to jump into it. Steve, I'm going to do what you asked me to come here for. I'm going to share in a general way what I used to be like, what happened, and what I'm like now. And the reason we do that, you guys, you'll hear a lot of people that aren't comfortable with that format. And that's okay. I used to be uncomfortable with them not being comfortable, but now I'm comfortable with them being uncomfortable, because be how you are. Do what you do. That's why we all time. That's why we have a game of meetings. That's why we we have a game of conventions. That's why we have a lot. If you want to have one the way that you want to have one, start one. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care. There are members who say, I don't want to share a long drunk log. I don't want to get into my story. I just want to share what my life has been like since I got cool, you know. But we're storytellers. We're a storytelling society. And one of the reasons we're storytellers, the meat of and the heart of it, this dude ain't always been up in it. New friends. When you listen to this guy share tonight, you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, he's sharing about, you know, the need for this power greater than himself. He's sharing about all that, but he ain't been what I've been. He ain't done what I've done. He ain't felt what I felt. What can this lame tell me? You know, it's real important that I do the mugshot. You know, and our stories are a mugshot. That's the before. That's the, you know, and the powerful thing, you know, the thing about Alcoholics Anonymous, you guys, and don't get it confused, there's a lot of information. I love this conference in particular. We had the people giving the workshops. We had somebody, and Arisha is, down with it. You know, we heard from Cliff and Lori. For Alan, you now have elevated yourself. For me, you know, I got a favorite, and that's Larcene. And you and Larcene can do steps at Alcoholics Anonymous like alcoholics. Y'all be putting it in, you know. And so I thank you for that, you know. I thank you, you know. But so we got people that's really familiar and really good at communicating that. But, you know, that's not the power of Alcoholics Anonymous. Information is cool. Go to lots of meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous and you'll get a lot of information at our meetings. But that's not the meat and that's not the core. And that's not what has held me with you guys for 36 plus years. Yeah, the information is cool, but what's held me with you? Transformation. Transformational stories, you know, that take place every day. We see them all the time. And the best way I see transformation is the ladies. You know, I hate to keep picking Lori, Arisha, Eve, if they get up here and they're dignified and they're ladies and they look good, and you be like, what the hell are they doing here with us? What is this housewife? What is this model? What is this diva doing here? And then they start sharing their stories, fellas, and we like, ooh, please, baby, don't you leave us. You know what I'm saying? You know, the transformational stories that take place in Alcoholics Anonymous. And check this out. I don't know if any of you do what I do. Here's the power of that. That the person that's telling the story is not the person that's in the story. Wait. That girl that was talking about all the things Edith was, that ain't the same person that's standing in front of us right now with that nice lady drawl. And the one that's in the story is not the one that's telling. The power that we tap into in Alcoholics Anonymous. We see that best in our stories. The other reason we're storytellers, make no mistake about what's going on here tonight. We do a lot of talking. We talk about the steps. We talk about the work. We talk about the process. We talk about all that. At the bottom, it's a manner of living for us that really works. And this manner of living, this spiritual basis of life, we try as best we can to put in the words. But you can't put transformation in words. The way that we describe transformation is storytelling. That's the language of spirituality. That's ancient. That's always been. It used to confuse me. And spirituality is never meant to be taken literal. Spiritual language has never been constrained by literal. And that was, you know, one of the things that really kept me stuck for a long time. But we're storytellers because we're a spiritual society. And make no mistake about it, there is a power in these rooms. Make no mistake about it. It's in here right now. You know, and so when that young man came in, James, and for all our new friends, no disrespect, I think the Bob was 60 years. But I primarily came here to talk to our new friends. Hopefully, while talking to our new friends, there's something that takes place. And it also permeates the oldest person in the room. When we talk to the oldest person in the room, we'll miss the new ones. But I guarantee you, anytime we're talking to the new ones, when heart speaks, heart hears. and everybody in the room will participate in the conversation. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I grew up in Watts in the 60s. I'm one of 6 boys. My old man was an alcoholic. He got put out when I was pretty early in life. My mom started raising 6 boys by herself. My mom was an old Southern Baptist welfare mom in the 60s. You know, I listened to Arisha talk about being dirt poor. I'm one of the ones that comes from, you know, I come from not having a lot, but I come from having a lot. You know, I never knew dysfunctional till I hit the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. We didn't have a lot of money, but it was a lot of love in the White House. You know, my mom is still my greatest example of spiritual living on this planet. When I was 8 years old, I remember I used to wait at the bus stop for my mom to come home from work. And my mom was working 2 jobs, and she was, you know, my mom was a domestic. She would catch 3 buses in Los Angeles. I lived in South Central. I grew up in Watts. And from Watts to the Valley was 3 buses. And my mom would catch 3 buses every day. And I'd wait for her at night to come home. At a certain period, I don't know, I might have been 10 years old, 11 years old. At some point, my mom stopped catching the bus home because she went back to adult school and got her high school diploma. Shortly thereafter, my mom went to community college and got an AA degree. She went on to go to, you know, the Cal State LA, and she graduated from college the same year my younger brother Ryan graduated from college. And my mom went on to have a long and distinguished career in the insurance field, retired with a lot of accolades, is a very influential lady in the city of Los Angeles, in my community and in my life, and has always been the example that has lit the way for me. As a result of that, I've always grown up thinking I'd leave footprints. I've always grown up thinking I'd do something with my life. If you grew up in the 60s, and I see there are a lot of people here from that era or who know that era, it was an optimistic time. It was a changing time. It was a turbulent time. It was a time when people thought that it was possibility. And I'm a guy that's a romantic. I believe in, I still am that guy. You know, I'm that guy. And so I grew up thinking that I would leave a mark and thinking I would make my mark on the world. You know, and so I grow up, if you go to enough meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the common themes you'll hear from most of our members is I never felt like I fit in. And that's not a part of my story. I'm a little guy, I like a lot of attention. I've never been interested in fitting in. I've always wanted to stand out. And as a result of that, I achieved and I accomplished quite a few things coming up in life. I was listening. It's amazing. There are things that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. You won't find them outlined in our book the way we say them, but we say them as a shortcut for you because they make so much sense. One of the things we do is some training of body parts. We train our feet in Alcoholics Anonymous, disease centers in our thinking, recovery centers in our feet. I'm going to talk about that foot training that goes on as I go through my talk. The other thing that we train our ears. And I've trained my ears to listen in Alcoholics Anonymous. And to our new friends, the shortcut version we say initially is listen for the similarities. I've been listening for the similarities so long now, I hear my story in everybody. I'm a kid from Watts. I'm from a tough town, but I'm not a tough guy. I've listened to some women who come from some high class, and I'm like, your story scares me, you know, but I identify. I was listening to a lady, and a few ladies have taken this, so I don't know where it started, but I was listening to a lady at a podium, some years back, and another lady shared it not too long ago and she said, when I started drinking, it made me prettier, wittier, and tittier. Now, and I identified, you know what I'm saying? I identified, you know. When Arisha was talking today, that's that's me. So, class president, student body president, straight A student, teacher's pet, played ball, made all-stars. On the outside, I should have been okay. On the inside, I've always felt like if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. Yeah, I was straight A student. Yeah, I was teacher's pet. Would have traded it all in if I could have been cool. If I just could have been cool, because in my neighborhood, it was a whole lot more currency placed on cool than on smart. Because I'm a wrapped up guy, and because I got a couple of other things that go on with this guy. And they are some of my fundamental, overriding, corrosive thread fears. And they have been with me a long, long time. One of my biggest fears, and one of the things is, I'm trapped in what I think you think about me. I don't know what you think about me, but I'm trapped in what I think you think about me, and I will do whatever it takes to shape and form and mold your opinion of Ralph. I'll whine you, I'll dine you, I'll woo you, I'll con you, I'll bully you, I'll manipulate you, I'll buy you. Please like me. Now, I don't particularly have to like your ass, but please like me. You know. And the other companion fear, and it runs deep. It runs deep, deep. I get amazed at the power of the power that has taken some of the sting out. When you live with yourself 69 years, sometimes you are not aware of some of the things that you've been free from or the extent of it, because you've lived with it so long. And one of these other fears that I used to think it used to own me, you know, and that's the fear of, if you really know me, you won't like me. So I got to present this stage character. Later on, you guys, when we talk about manifestations of self, and we do our third step prayer. I'm going to jump and then I'm going to come back. I don't usually jump because I'm a linear thinker, so I pretty much go through my story crying just naturally, but I'm going to jump a little bit. You know, in our third step, it talks about relieve me of bondage of self. And the self we talk about in our book, we start talking about the selfishness, the self-centeredness, all the things that we talk about that the self precedes, you know, the self-absorption. But when I look back on my life, I had this fundamental bondage of self. I was tongue-tied. I was a popular kid. I was very smart. But when I was challenged with girls, I'm terrified. I can't talk. You know, older people, I come from a generation of kids that'll be seen and not heard, even though I was encouraged, even though I was supported. It seems like it's in my DNA. I thought I was just painfully shy. Turns out I'm terrified of what you think about me. I'm always measured in my thinking. I need to know how what I say to you is going to land, what effect it's going to have, how it's going to make me look. So I'm a measured guy. I'm not spontaneous. Leslie and I are really good because we are polar opposites. I mean, she's fire. I'm like, I love surprising her, because when she surprises me, I'll be like, oh yeah, nice. I've always been overly serious, overly concerned with what you think about me. Just tightly wound. So this bondage of self, fundamentally, beyond what we talk about when we get to the fourth step, that's been something that Ralph White has been afflicted with. We're going to circle back to that momentarily. So I'm growing up like that, smart guy, 60. So I'm late. I'm a late bloomer. We hear people talking, some of the speakers have talked about, drinking when they be in preteens and early. I'm a late bloomer. First drink at 16, didn't really count. I started drinking in earnest when I went off to school. I went to UCLA in 71. And man, I graduated to higher education in every sense of the word, and I'm late to the party, but when I get there, I'm there. I'm drinking what youngsters drink, I'm drinking Tyrolia, Annie Green Springs, Boone's Farm, Akadama, Brass Monkey, Southern Comfort was my drink to mix. Gin and Roses lime juice was my old standby. I'm drinking, smoking commercial weed, what we do, and I'm late to the party, but I'm there. I run with a crew. And in my crew, it would always be a pretty boy in the crew. And later on, when I'm clubbing, because I'm a club guy, I'm an image guy. That's who I am. I'm what I think, so I'm running with the right crowd, because that's me. All front, no back, but that's me, man. And so I'm running with a fast crew, and it's a pretty boy in my crew all the time, and he get a girl in the corner, right? And I'm ear hustling, because he's talking to her, and I want to know, what do you say to make a girl giggle? Because I don't have that in me. But I start drinking this beverage, alcohol, man. And when you listen to my brother Ron share his talk, and Ronnie's been out here too, and we came out here together some years back. And when you listen to Ronnie and his talk, Ronnie, year younger than me, we grew up in the same environment, the same house, slept in the same bed, his feet to my head, vice versa. And when Ronnie shares his talk, he always wanted to be somebody else, doing something else, someplace else. Me, On the other hand, I couldn't imagine being anybody other than me. I couldn't imagine being anybody other than a young brother growing up in Watts in the 60s. I couldn't imagine it. And so even though I was scared of you guys, I was terrified to talk, and I was painfully shy, underneath that exterior, I was always still judging. Yeah, I can't talk to you, but ooh, if I could. You know, you really would want to hear from me. You know, and that's what alcohol did. Alcohol was the third step experience. Relieved me of the bondage of self, and Ralph White, it didn't make me somebody else. It let the real Ralph come out and play, you know, and it was a spirit, and it was on. And it was not, you know, Arisha in her story talked about from the gate it was consequences. I'm one that understands the progression of the illness of alcoholism, because I had a lot of fun and I had a lot of games. I'm at this major university, and it's on, and it's in the 70s, and I'm 18 years old, and I'm grown. I'm going to tell you, the big book Alcoholics Anonymous talks about me in lots of places. There's a part in the book that it talks about the alcoholic life seems the only normal one. Let me give you a snapshot of how that looked for Ralph. Okay, 16 years old. My goal was to be the first black president of the United States. And people encouraged me. You had to grow up in the 60s, you guys. You really did. It was a really, really, really exciting time, right? And I come from a community that really, 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 at that time, was encouraging. You know, my church was encouraging. My mom was a big figure in that church. My mom, me and my brothers, one year I'm student body president, next year Ronnie, next year Reggie. White boys were well known. We written up in the paper. You know, we just on a fast track for success, right? And so I'm gonna be the first black president of the United States, 16 years old. Fast forward, I'm 18 years old and I get introduced to alcohol. I'm 18 years old and I'm drinking. I'm green. I'm a rookie. I don't really know the ropes, and I get a couple of partners who showing me the game, right? I don't know how to, I'm smoking weed for the first time, and I liked it, but I don't know how to roll weed. I would roll, and it would be real fat in the middle and real skinny on the ends, and you get a headache trying to smoke it, right? Stick with me. I'm going somewhere with this story. It's illustrative. And so in secret, I got this red roller, and I would take these, and veteran weed smokers know, I would take these two yellow, the thick zigzags, stick them together, put them in this red roller and roll them. It's embarrassing. I don't want to show that in public, but I'm using this red roller. I got a partner in my crew that could roll a joint. White paper, one hand. I'm 18 years old. I'm green in the game. I don't know how to do it. First black president of the United States. Remember, that's my goal at 16. By 19 years old, when I'm a sophomore in school, that goal got replaced with, I want to be able to roll a joint, one paper, one hand. I took to the life, man. It was made from, but that's illustrative. Things that were important to me no longer were important to me. I was traumatized. You know, the first time, I never saw C in high school. But my freshman year, I'm still thinking I'm the same guy that went to college, that came into college from high school. But I've added alcohol, you know, to the mix. I'm not the same guy. Bill Wilson, you know, in his story, when he talked about going to school, he said, potential alcoholic that he was, he nearly failed a night law course. I had to take a withdrawal from a class because I had a fail on a midterm. Traumatized. Couldn't believe it. I took a withdrawal. I ended up on academic probation my freshman year. It floored me. It threw me. The first time I started getting, struggling, but after that, par for the course. I start doing what it is I do. I tell myself stories. And then I get some partners around me because I'm very persuasive. And I talk like I know. I don't know nothing. I'm the first guy off my block to go to college. I don't have a lot of mentors in this game. But I'm talking, oh man, it don't matter what your GPA is. Just manage to make it through. You'll be all right. And so I was on a full ride. I come off this full ride because you needed to maintain a GPA of a certain, and I'm on academic probation after freshman year. So now I get on a regular scholarship student. Now I end up with all these student loans, which I never would have anyway. Long story short, I start settling in. I listened to, I think I was listening to Cliff when he was sharing about the people he drank with. And some of them would, I'm going to have two and I'm going to go. The thing about me is I don't know that I'm doing it, but I start filtering. If you don't get down like I get down, you're not my crew. So the people I end up with, because I end up downward Peter principle in the life, I end up default setting my people, right? So I don't know that I drink different than other people. I drink just like everybody that's around me. Because everybody that's around me, we drink all night and play bid whist all night long. The difference I think I'm described in our chapter, in our chapter there's a solution. I think I'm described in the paragraph that says, but what about the real alcoholic? But I don't think I'm described in that paragraph. I think I'm described in the paragraph right before that one that talks about the hard drinker given a sufficient reason to stop and moderate. When I started suffering some losses in the 70s, I said to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to cut this foolishness out and I'm going to straighten out and I'm going to do what it is I set out to do. But I got that thing. And we graduated from school, and my partners started going to grad school, and they started families, and they started careers. I got that thing. More accurately, it's got me, and I don't know it, and I'm deep in it. You know what I don't like about the invisible line? It's invisible. It ain't nothing to say, if you take this next one, you enter in the region from which is no return. No. And matter of fact, by the time you realize it's a line and you across it, you way over here. Who put that line back there? You know what I'm saying? The cold thing about the disease I suffer from, by the time I realize I have a problem and need to do something about it, it's already too late for me to do something about it. Cold thing. Got married on a Saturday afternoon in April of 1980. I got married to my college sweetheart, and when she and I got together at 19 years, I was 19, she was 18, and I was a catch. I had changed from the guy the guys you guys like in high school, girls, the pretty boys, the athletes, the one, I'm not a flavor in high school, but I become a flavor in college. He's going to be somebody, he's got a bright future, now I'm in school with some other, the girls are kind of nerdy too, so I'm a catch. I'm somebody. I'm the one that, quit messing with that bad boy Steve. Why don't you go out with that nice boy Ralph? Because I'm yes ma'am, yes sir. I grew up like that. I've never, ever, in the life or otherwise, I've never disrespected a lady. And a lot of that was fear. I've been scared of girls most of my life. So I did, and I put women on pedestals for a long time. But some of that was a good thing. Bad motive, good result. I'm a kind of guy that never was a disrespect. That's how I'm built. I used to think it made me a chump, and I used to think it made me a sucker, and I used to think all kind of stuff. But that's the way I'm built. Anyway, back to the story. So I get married 1980, Saturday afternoon in April. Had a bachelor party the night before my wedding. Big mistake. So I'm at the wedding, right? I'm tore up. I ain't had no sleep. I was at the bachelor till 7:30 in the morning. I'm supposed to say my own vows. I stagger up in there. My wife to be says, scratch the own vows, say the regular. We get into the ceremony. I get ready to say, I said, I threw up all over. Passed out. Have not taken a wedding picture to this day. I've been telling that story a lot of years. I've been talking in Alcoholics Anonymous probably over 25 years. So I've told that story, and I've been in a lot of meetings and speaking to meetings so I've been telling that story, and it's good for giggles in Alcoholics Anonymous now. But my first wife, thank God for amends. And we still had really never talked about that story. And we talked about, and from her standpoint, ladies, for most of you, you get one day where you're going to walk the red carpet. Not everybody is you, as most women walk the red carpet one time. Queen for a day, your day. And on that day, that young lady's day, She made the mistake of hitching her wagon to a guy like me. We went on the honeymoon. Elephant in the room. We never talked about that debacle at the wedding. No wedding pictures, no nothing. I'm laid out in this room. We had about 400 or 500 people. It was a big, big wedding. We both were college sweethearts. We knew a gang of people together. We were popular. We were a good couple. And I'm laid out. So anyway, we don't discuss it. And we get home from the honeymoon. And I get home with a wife and she gets home with a tornado. And I don't mean to be. And guys like me are heartbreakers. We can't help it. It's not really in our nature. But I got that thing. And if you're in my vicinity, if you're in the blast radius, unfortunately, it's two categories of people. I call them marks and Vicks. Marks and victims. You could be my daughter. You could be my mom. Be my wife. In fact, in Ralph's case, it is. Because I'm not a fighting guy. I'm not a hard guy. I'm not a robbing guy. I'm a guy that's taken from the purse. I'm that guy. It's not a lot of dramatic stuff. It's some. Bill talked about unhappy scenes in his sumptuous apartment. I remember coming home one night, sticking my key in the door. Wife and 2-year-old daughter sitting there, they're crying. I look over here and homeboy sitting in my seat and he's got a gun pointed at my stomach talking about I want my money right now. Remember getting calls at work a couple of times, my wife on the phone. There's a guy here knocking on the door demanding his money. Fellas, I don't know about you, but I always had a lot of fears and a lot of doubts about, do I have what it takes to be a father? Do I have what it takes to be a husband? Because what's the father's role and what's the husband's role? To protect and to provide, and it's a cold-blooded feeling, fellas. Laying in bed with a woman night after night after night after night. Knowing not only aren't you protecting, knowing not only aren't you providing, you're the one bringing the wolf to the door. So we don't have enough time for me to go through all the sordid details. And it was big stuff, man, but the cold thing about living with a guy like me, the way I get down, is the grind. Aaron, it's the grind. It's just the grind of living with a guy that every 2 weeks, you know not to expect him home on Thursday. It got to be where I got to the point where, why should she even expect me? I thought it was normal not to come home with the check. It's the grind. Get ready to see the landlord every month without me, and you're going to have a story because we're short again. It's the grind. Make sure we got candles. Make sure we have, because every single utility was cut off at one point or another. Youngsters, you don't know nothing about this, but in the 80s, if your utilities were cut off, you don't get on a computer. You wait till the next day. You drive to the utility company. You take them your money and a reconnection, and you get it cut back on. But if you're married to Ralph, you usually have to wait till the next payday. So you might go 6 days without a phone or without gas or without water or without lights. You might go 8 days. Familiar with that. Familiar with going next door, taking showers or baths. Familiar with boiling water. Familiar with using candles. It's the grind. You're going to have to go to your mom's house or my mom's house on Thanksgiving or Christmas with another story this year about why your husband ain't with you. It's the grind. I hit that purse one too many times. Came home one morning, screen door was locked. I'm put out of my house. I'm now my daddy. Over the course of that next year, that year of 1985, my 5 brothers got put out of their respective homes. We all ended up in my mom's house when we damn near killed her. In the year of 1985, my mom would come home every day with a bag of groceries, because if she left food in the refrigerator, these 6 grown leeches that she gave birth to would have been selling plates to people in the neighborhood, so we could get our money to do what we needed to do. My wife at the time thought it was something salvageable about this piece of man she married. And she would bring my daughter over on Saturdays so we could keep a father-daughter relationship. My daughter was 2 years old. And I got to tell you, I wanted to be a father to my little girl with everything in me. I wanted to take her to Disneyland, and I wanted to take her to Magic Mountain. I wanted to take her to a movie on a Saturday afternoon. I wanted to walk up the street with her little hand in my big hand, take her to the store, buy her some ice cream. I wanted to sit her in my lap and read stories to her. I wanted to tuck her in bed at night and get a good night kiss. I wanted to get the look from my girl that I've seen men in the fellowship get. The look like, this is my daddy and this is my hero. And the best I could do on those Saturdays was 30 minutes. Tell my mom something like, I'm going to the store to buy Rain some ice cream. I disappear. I sneak back on Sunday night when her mom was coming to get her. Still remember some of those long Sunday nights sticking my head around the side of my mom's house, tears flowing. And through the tears, I see those two heads in the car and the headlights backing out. And I think to myself, there goes my life, backing out this driveway. Heard a lot of people share they were scared of dying out there. Not my story. Never scared of dying, scared I was going to keep waking up to the same old thing. Monday the same as Tuesday, the same as Christmas, over and over and over again. And I'm so glad God don't make misery comfortable. And on October the 11th, 1986, I got miserable enough. I got tired enough. I got directed to my fourth program of recovery and to our new friends. The reason we stood up when that young man came up here for one day, and he came up here as representative of all of you who are just now joining us on this journey. And the reason we are so excited when you are not, the reason we are so excited when you are so disgusted, the reason we are so excited when you are so afraid, the reason we are so excited when you are so despondent, dispirited, and hopefully hopeless. The reason we are so excited is we know something you don't know. We know something you don't know. It's my favorite part in you guys' story. That's why please don't stop telling your stories. It's a rhythm to listening to storytelling in Alcoholics Anonymous. At the front end of the story, and I love music, and sometimes there's a soundtrack for me when I think about it. And when I think about the first step, it's kind of like Thrill Is Gone. That one is just like, it runs through my mind. And so at the beginning, for all of us, it's different. Some people have a front-end story. It's exciting. It's cops and robbers. Some people have a real sad, long, depressing one. Some people have a horror story at the front end. Mine I kind of thought was pedestrian. It took me a while to get comfortable with that. But at any rate, all of us we have different stories at the front. But almost all of us hit the refrain. Thrill is gone. Ain't no sunshine. We sing the blues for a while. Some of us sing it long enough, but we hit that refrain and we hit the blues. And then, so then we hit, and then something happens. Something happens. I listened to the Goodings, and Cliff called Wilma, and she said, and he came home and said, I'm going to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And the next day, Lori said, she called, and the same lady said, I'm going to take you to 90 meetings in 90 days. And my heart soared listening, because I know what's getting ready to happen when you get to the what happened. Then the police knocked on the door and they walked me out in handcuffs. Then I came home and all my stuff was on the front lawn. Then the boss called me in and I walked out of work with a brown box, Then, and we laugh and we know, and it seems like the worst day effort. Bill Wilson says how dark it is before the dawn. And we know when you say that, now it's the what happened, and then you're getting ready to get to us. And I'm a sucker for a happy ending. I know what's going to happen when you get to us. I know what's going to happen if it happens for you like it happened for me. On the morning of October 11, 1986, I didn't know it. I didn't understand it. You don't make an appointment. I fell in the grace. I just fell in the grace. I didn't know that was my date, you guys. We don't make an appointment for it. This business that we have, this big that we do, it was a day like any other day. And it really, the reason I talk about it so much now, this business of surrender, I think we underrate it. And I think we take too much credit for participation in it. Opinion. Big neon light, Ralph's opinion. But, Steve, the older I get and the longer I stay, I realize the gift. I realize the gift. The magnitude of the gift. Every single one of us have a home group. And in our home group, we have the person that is the perennial slipper. He's made the circuit of everybody there to sponsor him. He's gone from the low-level servant to the big high-level, whoever the main person is, I'm going to get that person to my celebrity sponsor, and that'll be the answer, and he's made the circuit. And then, most people don't want to say it out loud. And it's kind of a dark secret that people don't want to have. I've been guilty. I've been thinking, man, please don't come to me. I don't want to fool with him. I'm not trying to fool with you. You taking up space. You not here. You ain't serious. You ain't serious. And really, the commentary is not on him. It's on me. I don't realize the gift. I don't realize what happened to me October 11th, 1986. I don't realize fundamentally I was changed. Fundamentally something happened. I believe when desperation meets opportunity, there's a small window of grace that opens up. And that day I will jump through the window. But there have been other times when the window had opened for me. I'm not the surrendering kind. I'm not the surrendering type. I don't do surrender. I don't do give up. Surrender has a couple of connotations. One of them when we talk about give up. The give up, okay, I give. And I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not that kind. The other connotation of give up is give up as in surrender your stuff, surrender your pride, surrender your money, surrender your growth. I don't give that up. I don't give nothing. I'm not the surrendering type. But on October 11th, 1986, I was surrendered. I was surrendered. I always thought I was surrendered under the lash of alcohol and drugs, but there was something else in the mix. That strange alchemy. I love that word that Orisha was throwing around today. I think not only was it that combination of the collapse of the will, I think it was an infusion of grace at the same time. And it was grace sufficient for that time. Now that level of grace has expiry. It has an expiration. It needs to be, but I brought it. Here's the other part that was critical. I had had that kind of collapse before, but I had not brought my thimble of grace to your thimbles of grace. And I didn't have what it took to survive Monday. I'd be remorseful on the floor, swearing off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And something would happen Wednesday. The doctor, in his opinion, says restless, irritable, and discontent. I would say I got bored. I would say something, I need to make something happen. But something happened this time. And I went up into the Harbor Light Center on Skid Row in Los Angeles on the morning of October the 13th, 1986. And my life has not been the same, and it has not been mine. 30 days after I went into that program, they allowed us to start going out to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. We were bringing meetings into the facility. So they had already kind of schooled me a little bit. And I started going to 9604 South Figueroa, and I met some men and women. And they changed my life. And they changed my life. It's the reason I don't discount anything we say in these rooms. I'm fortunate. I landed in a place where I've never been in a meeting where I didn't see that blue book on it. I didn't crack that blue book immediately. I didn't crack it immediately. What I did was I came in here with my little sliver of grace, and I found out something. Cliff was talking. And Cliff talked about lasting 45 days doing nothing, seeming to white knuckle. I hate to be in somebody else's story, you know what I'm saying? But I've been doing this for a minute. I sponsor some people, and there are some things that, let's talk. Let's just talk about it. Everybody else say let's just talk about it. My sponsor says, Ralph, if you're reading a book for anything other than relationship with the power, you reading the book as a management tool, and that's human power. Trust that this book is not the treasure, it's the map. The book is not constraining. This book, Ralph, for you is a launch point. This book, and for me, it has launched me into something I was not expecting. The interesting thing about this in the book, when it talks about, Ralph, if we work on the spiritual and the mental and the physical straight. Now, I used to have problems with that. I'm a guy, I don't read the book to just recite it and say, oh, it's in the book, so it's true. No, fact check. Fact check it. See if it'll stand up. See if it'll hold up to the light of your experience. That's why I talk about it. Holds up to the light of my experience. But I read it, and there are things that stop me in my tracks, and I ask myself about them. Does that make sense to me? Spiritual, then the physical and the mental. Seems like you straighten up physically first. Get some hips back, girls. Face clears up, hair gets all right. Start gaining some weight. Seems like we become fit. Then mentally, I'm not doing some of the stupid things, because that's how I thought about it. Some of I even took some change back to the store when they gave me too much. I'm getting some stuff. I'm getting some act right back. Seem like this spiritual thing is going to take a very long time. How do you explain, if it's the informationers, how do you explain, how did you get from day 4 to day 5? How did you get from day 3 to day 4? Didn't have a home group, didn't have a sponsor, hadn't cracked a book, hadn't written the 4th step, shared a 5th step, been on an H&I panel, had not done any of what it is that we say that we do, these ego-reducing series of exercises that we call a step. What do we call that? What's the wave stopper? What is it that stopped washing your life away one day at a time, like it had been from the time you were 18 years old to you were 33? What do we call the wave stopping moment? Most of our members call that grace. And we know we don't produce the grace, we don't create the grace, we don't control the grace. We can't predict the grace. But we who have a date all know and usually agree that we've accessed it. We taste it, Well, Ralph, if it's just about this business of grace, why is it that your brother Reggie was out there so long, and thank God he's in here now. What about him? What about the person that's on the bus? I don't believe that grace is denied to anybody. I believe there's as much grace available to the bum on the bus stop right now as there is to anybody in this room. Well, how come he ain't up in here with us? It ain't the God ain't sending out the grace. The receiver is blocked. The receiver is blocked. And I think it has not been my job for the past 36 years to try to control, predict, obtain this grace. My job is to wipe the window. I wipe the window. Because Because I suffer from something, man, and that business, check this out. We've listened a lot over the weekend to some remarkable speakers. The danger in listening to remarkable speakers is it makes me think I got to be a remarkable speaker to get this thing. It sometimes will give the illusion that I've got to be one of these really sharp, intelligent, insightful people that get up here and they make it look easy. They get up here and they communicate it in a way that, wow, I want to be able to communicate it like that. Check this out. This business of recovery, it's a living program. The people that get up here in front of this podium, we talking about recovery. It ain't got a whole lot to do with living recovery. This program is a living program, and it's within the grasp, it's within the reach of anybody under the sound of my voice right now. Not only is this business that we're engaged with, not only is it vital, not only is it critical, not only is it crucial. Yeah, dude, I know all that. That scares me. It's critical, it's crucial, it's vital. It's available. It's accessible. You ain't got to be bright. You ain't got to be cute. Exhibit A. You ain't got to be sharp. You ain't got to be eloquent. You ain't got to have money. You ain't got to be none of that. The only requirement in here is you just got to be broken. And all of us qualify. You just got to be broken for the light, for the grace to come in. And all of us qualify for that. And you know, that first step for me was really one. It wasn't hard for me to wrap my head around. You know, I was one of these guys. I knew it was something physically different about me. I had it confused. I thought the reason I got so loaded was because I have high capacity. I thought that's why I did it. If you can't run with the big boys, don't roll with the big boys. I got high capacity. No. Sit down, dude. We're going to tell you. And so they took me to this doctor's opinion. Check this out. And it talks about in the doctor's opinion, men and women like me drink essentially for the effect. Doesn't say alcoholics drink essentially for the effect. Men and women. Anybody that put beverage alcohol in them is going to get an effect. We've heard some people share that they're made to the rest of them. They don't put a lot in them. I worked at a law firm. They put a lot of alcohol up in them. Partners, they put a lot of alcohol up in them. Didn't make them alcoholic. They got the effect produced by alcohol, but they were missing the critical element that only about 10% of us have, the phenomena of craving. New friends, that's what distinguishes us from other folk. You may run with your boy. I had a boy in my crew, and the only time I ever been in a high-speed chase. Only time. We on Wilshire Boulevard and the university police, not even the real police, university police, they get in the rear view and they shine the light. And in my crew, you know, you always have a crazy guy in the crew like Rich Bruckner, you know, but my boy Daryl was the crazy one. You never want to hear these words from the crazy person in the crew when he's behind the wheel. So the rear view, the lights are on us, and Daryl says these chilling words. Watch this. Floors it. We end up on the 405 freeway. By the time we get to Santa Monica, HP, Highway Patrol, is stretched out across. I'm 18 years old. I go to jail in a high-speed chase because of my boy Daryl. Daryl drank harder than anybody in my crew. Graduated, started a family, started a career, you know, never, of everybody in my 6 guys, I'm the only one here. And every single one of them looked just like me. Drank for he didn't get that phenomenon. I don't know why. Why? I don't know. Ain't important. I got that thing. That's the important thing to know. Not why I have it, that I have it. Something physically different about me, new friends. Well, Ralph, if it's only that there's something physically different, how do you explain stone sober, my car seemed to drive to the LIQ on payday? The second part of this disease, the obsession that somehow, someday, I will be able to control and enjoy this magic potion I discovered. And so it seems to me when I'm drinking, that's all I want to do. My story does not include I couldn't go 3 days without a drink. My story includes I could, and it was torture. It was torture. All I could think about was the next one. I'm good 2 days on remorse, right? Remorse holds me 2 days. I done spent a whole paycheck. It was a lot of negotiating to get back in the house. I'm back in the house, not in the bed, but in the house, So for 2 days, I'm good. I'm swearing this ain't happening. I'm not swearing that I'm not swearing I'm not going to ever get loaded anymore. I'm just swearing I'm not going to spend this whole paycheck again. I'm not going to do this stupid stuff that I did as a result. I don't connect the dot that it's out of your hands, dude. That didn't come to me until 1985 when my friend Joe C., he puts it like I quit quitting. I quit quitting. I knew I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But up at that time, I was still quit. And so it would be remorse. And then, man, but what happens, new friends, if you like me, on about day 3, I can't take it. I got to find something. I got to rummage through. I got to go to the ashtray and unroll roaches. I got to do something. I just can't, because a day, they add another 24 hours on top of the 24 hours that's already there, and I can't take it. And then when money hits my hand, it's involuntary. It's Pavlovian. I don't have a choice. Money loaded. Money loaded. When it's been in you and it's established in you that long, that's how it was for me. So I can't drink because of my body. I can't not. My mind refuses to accept that fact. I'm powerless. Third part of this disease, spiritual malady. 12 and 12 describes it as a soul sickness. And in the big book it says, Ralph, work on the spiritual, the mental, physical strength. That's what we do. Don't get scared. And so I started that deal, man. And here's the deal for me. I am a guy, genetically inclined, I think, DNA. I'm built for Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm an all-in guy. I've never been a sipper. I've never been a sipper in the life. I'm not a sipper in recovery. I'm not going to sit up here. I'm not going to sit up in a club and see you drinking and think I'm going to end up with a buzz. Why am I going to sit up in a meeting and see you taking steps and think I'm going to end up recovering? No. Why be in a 12-step process and not practice the 12 steps? That don't even make sense to me. But I'm built that way. I got to remember sponsors. I got to remember that. That's my blind spot. I love stories. I love reading. When we talk about the 4th step, that's not daunting to me. I'm a writer. I'm a reader. For some of our friends and for some of our new friends, that's kryptonite. That's their blind spot. That's not their wheelhouse. Because my experience ain't your experience, when you find it hard to go to meetings, because I find it comfortable to go to meetings. I find it comforting to go to meetings. I find it warm and welcoming to go to meetings. And so it seems to me that you are just being defiant. You're being recalcitrant. What's wrong with you? That ain't your wheelhouse. I am always self-examination, not self-analysis. What's your blind spot, Ralph? I'm always, how can I be more effective? How can I be more effective? Not everybody has your experience. I had the best experience. I have some of the most spiritual experience in alcoholism. I learned some of the things. I was going to meetings, band, and I was going to a home group, and it was a good home group. One of the things we would do that was the best thing you can do after the meeting, we go out and we would eat. This is my fellowship. We go out and we'd eat. And you'd invite me to eat, and I refuse. I say no, because my fear sets in. And I know what's going to happen when we go out to eat. I don't have conversation. I'm coming off the streets. I've been in a treatment program for 30 days. You good people don't want to be around a guy like me. What do you talk about? I'm staying at my mama's house. What do you talk about? I'm still full of this. Even though my self-esteem is here, I still got this kind of pride that I can't let you see, like you don't see me. But I don't know Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know that you know the newcomer. I don't know that you've been the newcomer. You've always been shiny. You've always been bright. Because in my experience, I'm the only one that's ever experienced my experience, right? So I'm sitting here and I can't go to dinner. I'm going to be exposed, one of my basic fears. I'm going to be humiliated, another one of my basic fears. I'm not going to measure up, another one of my basic fears. And when we get to the restaurant, my big fear is going to really show up. The check is going to come, and I don't have no money. But my Alcoholics Anonymous knows the new man. And usually, somebody like Rich sees somebody like Ralph. And you guys say the most spiritual acts of action for new friends. I know a lot of our friends like to thump and say, get them in the book. I think the most spiritual axiom for a new person is get in the car. Get in the car. And the most spiritual action the new person can take is to get in the car. Because you're scared. You don't know what's going to happen in the car, but you know it's going to be embarrassing. But when you're with good people like this, that make it inviting, that make it welcoming, that make it a safe place, you'll get a guy, you get a Steve, and he'll pull Ralph to the side and he'll say, don't worry about it, brother. When we get there, get whatever you want. He'll say, I got you. And my Alcoholics Anonymous has always met me where I was, and you left me in my dignity. You don't shame me. I know it's a lot of people say it's their experience that when I was new, every generation when they were new, and the bar keeps moving up, because when I was new, the people that were old were talking about when they were new. Now my group says when I was new, we walked through the sun. I'm like, well, the bar always moves, But with people, when I was new, they told me, sit down, shut up, and I've heard a lot of people say that at a podium. I've never had a member come up to me and tell me that. I've never had a member come up to me and tell me that. I've never found the need to elevate me this ain't a hazing society. I know the intent. I express the intent. The humility that's required to get this. If you're signing up for this show, if you're signing up for this ride, put your big boy pants on and your big girl panties on, because recovery is for grown people. There are going to be some bumps, and there are going to be some twists, and there are going to be some turns. Oh, but there's joy in the ride. So they said to Ralph, and I got on, man. I got all the way. I'm an all-in guy. Always have been. We got a broad third tradition in Alcoholics Anonymous. Rich and Edith talked about it. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. The moment you express a desire, you are on the team. Isn't that a wonderful thing? You don't have to try out. You don't have to audition. In fact, audition's over. You made it. The moment you express a desire, you are on the team. Check this out. Everybody that's on the team ain't in the game. Put me in the game. Put me in the goddamn game. The hell are you talking about, Mr. Speaker? Put me in the game. That's why you need a sponsor, because there's some stuff that has to be interpreted. I was looking at on the plane, I was looking at a master class, and this guy was talking. He's a writer, and I'm an avid reader. I read now. And he was saying the difference between movies and books. He was saying in a book, when you write a book, he was primarily talking about novels. So I thought about it. I said, I wonder, does that apply to our big book? He says, when you write a book, the thing about a book, when a writer writes a book, he's writing a book for 1 million. He's writing one book, but that lands 1 million places. I was thinking, because there are people who contend when everybody reads the book, they get the same thing out of it. Well, as a person who's read the book by myself and as a person who's read the book with other people many times, that has not been my experience. Because I am a person who interprets based on my experience, based on my understanding, based on my knowledge base, based on where I am now. I believe a lot of people read the book a lot. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. So I need a sponsor. Because when I read it, I filter it already through what it is I filter. And I need a sponsor for people to talk to me in Alcoholics Anonymous about what does this clown at the podium mean when he say, put me in the game. The hell is that about? Because I've always been an all-in guy. I use metaphors like that because I played ball, fellas. And when I played ball, I never intended to sit on the bench. Now, don't get me wrong. We need fans. We need spectators. We need haters. We even need commentators on the game to make them think that puts them in the game, right? But put me in the goddamn game. I didn't come to look. I didn't come to watch. Fellas, I always say it. I don't even do strip clubs because I don't like looking. Put me in. I'm not just, I'm not the spectating kind. Put me in the game. I got something I want to do for our new friends. The first way to get in this game. One of our speakers alluded to it too. On behalf of this, the Music City Roundup, and on behalf of all the Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't speak for all Alcoholics Anonymous, but pretend I'm doing it for you new friends tonight. I want to invite you to come all the way in, sit all the way down. Come all the way in. Get off the periphery. Get off the sideline. Quit doing the hokey pokey. Put your right foot in and take your right foot. Come all the way. Get in. Get in. What's the benefit of getting all the way in and sitting all the way down? That's why you need a sponsor, because the way that I came all the way in and I sat all the way down was I didn't come all the way in and sat all the way down on my behind. I came all the way in, I sat all the way down on my knees, and I said, God, do something with your boy. I'm after relationship. I'm after relationship with this power. And if you're sitting in here right now and you think that this guy's getting ready to hit me with the G word and I ain't feeling that, yeah, Mr. Speaker, with your 36 years, it's easy for you. The God word just slides out your mouth. You don't understand me. I don't come from that. I get it. Check this out. I did not come up in here walking toward the fire. I came walking toward the light. I came up in here running from the fire. And if your ass is on fire, you in the right place too. I did not come up in here looking for this power. I came up in here. I grew up in Baptist church. I was already one at 8 years old at a Baptist church. A lot of you guys may not know Baptist church experience. Catholic church is sedate. It's kind of awe-inspiring. It's up, down, it's quiet. But a Baptist church experience is kind of high energy, especially Southern Baptist in Los Angeles. And my mom would be sitting next to me on the pew, and at a certain point in the proceedings, apparently, I never knew it, apparently something would sweep the church called the Holy Spirit, and people would be moved to jump up. 8 years old, I'm looking at my mom like, you better not embarrass me up in here. You better not jump up in here. 8 years old, I'm self-absorbed from an early age. And the stories they told in church felt like myths, fables, stories. Aesop's tales, Daniel in the lion's den, the part in the Red Sea, Jonah in the whale's belly. All that stuff felt like stories to me. So I came to you guys, the cynic, the scoffer, the skeptic. You gave me another name. You called me agnostic, and you sent me to a chapter. And I found out, Ralph, as with most things, you somewhat stumble on to something, even though you don't know it. It is storytelling. That's spiritual language. It is storytelling. That's the language of spirituality. Ralph, how many times have you been in a lion's den? It ain't meant to be literal. In sobriety, I've been delivered from stuff that I didn't see no way out of. In sobriety, I've been on something I can't see my way to the other side, and suddenly this grace is parted to see in front. In sobriety, I went there and I got on my knees and I said, and the reason why I go to these meetings, you guys, the reason why, even though the gorilla was still on the block, and I knew it. And I knew that I suffered from an illness and that I believe when you guys told me only a spiritual experience to conquer it, I don't want it. I don't want the medicine. I can't take the medicine. But I come to these meetings and I get the witness testimony. And I get the witness testimony. And I want to be like you. And I get on my knees. And I don't know you, power, but I believe you know me. And I'd like to get to know you. And if it's not too much to ask, I think I'd like to put up a Christmas tree with my girl. And sir, if it's not too much to ask, I'd like some of that self-respect I see you handing out to the men in the rooms. I'd like to get up on a birthday, celebrate a birthday with my girls. And the principle and the spirit of the invitation. I don't want you to come into my life. I don't want you to come in my house and redecorate it. I'm going to give myself to you. You put me where you want to put me. You do with me what you want to do with me. And he had his way with me. And as a result of that, I embarked on these series of ego-reducing exercises to get me out the way. And when I got out the way, I got a new address. We call it what we say up here, rocketed into the fourth dimension. Fourth dimension living for me. That 2-year-old daughter whose piggy bank I was going in, she's 40 years old right now. When she walked down the aisle, she's a practicing attorney in the state of California. When she walked down the aisle 10 years ago, she was accompanied by her dad. I got a 28-year-old daughter at home. I was in the delivery room when she hit this earth. I cannot imagine the world without River White. She wouldn't be here without you. My mom, who we almost lost in 1985, her son started coming to you in 1986. There's 4 of us with you right now. My mom is 93 years old, and when I go home, I'll be going to see my mama. Alcoholics Anonymous, as my friend Carla Rao says, speaking for itself. I've always wanted to do something important, and I've always wanted to do something significant. I can think of nothing more important or significant than being a participating member of the life-saving, life-changing experience that is Alcoholics Anonymous. You'll never hear Ralph White say, I don't know why I'm sober. I know exactly why I'm sober. I get a blessing so that I can be a blessing. Recovery for me is a gift from God. What I do with my recovery is my gift to God. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic.